Ever get hit with like a totally brilliant idea? You know that feeling like you're onto something huge, something game-changing? You can picture the impact,
Yeah.
the success, even yourself on like a magazine cover or something. But then, and maybe this is familiar, nothing happens.
Happens to the best of us.
The idea just stays stuck, maybe on a napkin somewhere, but it never really takes off. It can be so frustrating.
Absolutely. It's a universal thing. Everyone has these moments of inspiration, but what comes next is what matters. It's not the idea, it's what do they say? The execution.
Execution, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what separates those folks with the ideas from the ones who actually make things happen.
Exactly. The dreamers from the doers, the visionaries from the ones actually changing things.
Right. Okay, so execution is key. Got it.
Mm.
But why is it so hard? Why are we all having these amazing ideas, but so few of them actually become something real?
Well, there's this research from Harvard Business Review, and it says 93%, a whole 93% of people with innovative ideas never actually, do anything with them.
Wow, 93%. That's a lot.
It is. It's like a room full of people with all this potential, but only a handful even try.
So what's the deal? Is it fear, procrastination, or are we just overwhelmed?
It's probably all of that, honestly. I mean, doing something with your idea takes work, discipline, and a willingness to be uncomfortable. It means getting out of your comfort zone, taking a chance, and being okay with setbacks.
So you're saying it's not just about the idea, it's about having the courage to actually go after it, even if it might not work out.
Exactly. You got to embrace the whole journey with all the twists and turns instead of just focusing on a perfect outcome. But there's also the mental part of it. We tend to think execution is harder than it is, and we underestimate what we're capable of.
So we psych ourselves out?
Kinda, yeah. We get caught up in planning and perfecting, wanting everything to be just so before we even start.
Oh, so like that saying, perfect is the enemy of good.
Exactly. We focus so much on the ideal plan, the perfect product, that we never actually get around to doing the work.
Okay, so how do we stop doing that? How do we start, making those ideas real? What's the first step when we're feeling overwhelmed or unsure?
One thing I've learned from studying people who really get things done is they don't let the size of their goals overwhelm them. They break them down into smaller steps, and they focus on taking action today, right now, instead of getting stuck thinking about the whole long road ahead.
So instead of trying to climb the whole mountain at once, you're saying we should set up base camp first.
Yeah, exactly. It's about changing our perspective from being overwhelmed by the goal to focusing on the progress we can make each day. And, when you look at the people who have accomplished amazing things, you see this principle at work again and again.
It's true. I mean, when you talk about people accomplishing amazing things, the first person I think of is Elon Musk.
Hmm.
He didn't just dream of changing the car industry or making space travel happen. He took action. He actually did it.
He's a great example. He didn't get bogged down in the complexity of building a rocket or an electric car. He just focused on making progress one step at a time.
He just kept moving, kept pushing forward.
Yeah.
And it's not just Musk, right? Jeff Bezos didn't just think about selling books online. He started Amazon in his garage and just built it from there.
Right. And there's Oprah Winfrey. She didn't just wish for a media empire. She built it step by step using her vision, her drive, and her focus on execution. These people show what happens when you actually bridge that gap between an idea and doing something about it.
Their stories are incredible, but also kind of intimidating. I mean, we're talking about giants here. How does this whole execution thing work for someone running a small business or even just someone trying to achieve a personal goal like losing weight or learning to play an instrument?
It's the same principle, really. Whether you're starting a global company or a new fitness routine, the key is breaking the goal into manageable pieces and then prioritizing consistent action over perfection.
So it's not the size of the goal, it's the mindset, the approach.
Exactly. It's about that obsession with execution, that constant drive to do something, to learn, to adapt, and to keep moving forward, even when things are uncertain. So let's say you have two people who both have the same great idea for a fitness app. One spends months perfecting their business plan, going to every conference, networking like crazy, but they never actually build the app. The other focuses on getting a basic version of the app out there quickly, testing it, learning from feedback, and constantly improving it.
I think I know where you're going with this. I'm guessing the one who actually builds the app is the one who ultimately sees success, right?
You got it. Because they understand that execution is the key to unlocking the potential of any idea. It's about making that vision tangible, turning it into something real that can actually make a difference.
This makes me think about how we do that in our own lives, too. We might dream of getting in shape, but never actually go to the gym. Or talk about writing a book, but never write a single word.
You're exactly right. This whole idea of execution isn't just for big businesses. It's crucial for personal growth, too. It doesn't matter if you're trying to lose weight, learn a new skill, write a novel, or even strengthen your relationships. It all boils down to consistent action.
Okay, so how do we actually bridge that gap between what we want to do and actually doing it? It's one thing to have a goal, but how do we make it happen?
Let's imagine two people who both want to get in shape. One person joins a gym and talks about working out, but never actually goes. The other person makes a workout plan, finds a workout buddy, and commits to going to the gym 3 times a week, no matter what.
6 months later, the one who actually went to the gym probably looks pretty good.
Exactly. It's not about good intentions or having the best equipment. It's about consistently showing up and putting in the work, day after day.
This makes so much sense. But honestly, how do we actually make that happen? How do we make ourselves do the work even when we don't feel like it? Especially when life gets busy and there are distractions everywhere. Do you have any strategies that work for you?
Well, one really powerful strategy is something we touched on earlier, breaking those goals down, making them
Do
bite-sized.
you mean like instead of I'm going to write a novel, it's I'm going to write a page today?
Yeah, exactly. It's way less overwhelming, right? And then all that progress, it really starts to add up. Another thing that's really important is having a plan.
Like a roadmap, but for my goal.
Exactly. A roadmap. Figure out what you need to do, when you're going to do it, and how you're going to do it. That way, it's not just a vague idea floating around. It gives you structure.
So it's like creating a system.
You got it. But even the best plan, it's useless without this next part, consistency.
I've heard that consistency is key, but honestly, it's tough sometimes. How do you stick with it, especially when you just don't feel like doing the work?
You're right. Motivation comes and goes. That's why having a system is so important. It's like compound interest. Those small, regular deposits, they lead to big growth over time.
Okay, I get that with finances,
Yeah.
but how does that apply to, say, learning a new language?
Okay, imagine you commit to just 15 minutes of practice every day. Some days you'll love it, other days it'll feel like a chore. But after weeks and months, all those little 15-minute chunks, they add up. And you'll be speaking the language in a way you couldn't have imagined.
So it's not about massive effort all at once.
Yeah.
It's about those consistent little steps, even when they're not so exciting.
Exactly. Oh, and here's another tip that's been huge for me. Accountability. Share your goals.
You mean like tell a friend or find a mentor or join some kind of online group?
Yeah, anyone who can give you that little push when you need it, having someone to check in with can make a world of difference.
It's like having a personal cheerleader, right? Someone to remind you why you started in the first place.
Yeah.
But what about when things go wrong? Everyone hits roadblocks, those setbacks that make you want to quit. How do you deal with those and not lose all your momentum?
Well, first of all, setbacks, they're going to happen. They're normal. They're part of it. They don't mean you failed.
So you're saying when you hit a wall, instead of saying I'm a failure, it's more about, okay, what can I learn from this?
Right. What can I learn? How can I adjust? Maybe the plan needs tweaking, or maybe you need a whole new approach. It's all about experimenting.
This is making me realize that execution, it's not just about forcing yourself to do things. It's about having the right mindset, the right strategies, and the right people supporting you.
That's it. And don't forget to celebrate those wins along the way, no matter how small. Recognizing your progress, it keeps you going.
That's so true. It's easy to focus on what we haven't accomplished and forget to look back and see how far we've come.
It's like climbing a mountain. Every now and then, you got to stop, enjoy the view, and appreciate how far you've climbed. Otherwise, it's easy to lose sight of the summit and get discouraged.
This has been great advice. But how does this consistent execution idea work for, say, personal growth? Those goals where the results aren't as clear-cut as launching a business or writing a book.
Great question. Okay, let's say you want to be a better communicator.
Okay, I've actually been working on that. What would be a good first step?
You could break it down. Like, practice active listening for 15 minutes a day. Read a book about communication. Or even just pay more attention to your body language.
So it's about finding specific actions that support the overall goal. And then, of course, being consistent.
Exactly. And the cool thing is this approach, it works for any area of personal growth. Improving your relationships, learning mindfulness, whatever it is.
This makes me think about all those New Year's resolutions. People have good intentions but give up after a few weeks.
It's because they don't create a system. They have the desire, but they haven't broken it down into steps or figured out how to stay accountable.
Like trying to run a marathon without training or a map, you're bound to get lost or just give up.
Right. So no matter what your goal is, personal or professional, remember it all starts with one step. And those consistent steps, day after day, that's what leads to amazing results.
This has been super insightful. I'm feeling motivated to tackle some of my own goals that I've been putting off. But before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I have one more question. We've talked a lot about consistent action, but what about when you hit a major roadblock? One of those setbacks that feels impossible to overcome. How do you stay motivated and keep going when things get really, really tough?
That's such a good question. It's something we all face at some point. But here's the thing, those setbacks, they're going to happen. It's part of the journey. And it doesn't mean you've failed. In fact, those setbacks, they can be amazing opportunities to learn and grow.
So it's about changing how we view those challenges,
Mhm.
seeing them as stepping stones, not the end of the road.
Exactly. First step, acknowledge your emotions. It's okay to feel frustrated, disappointed, even angry. Just let yourself feel those feelings.
So we give ourselves permission to feel those emotions instead of trying to pretend they aren't there.
Right. Pushing those emotions down just makes them stronger. Then, once you've acknowledged them, shift your focus. Instead of dwelling on the problem, look for solutions.
So instead of why me, it's more like, okay, what now?
Exactly. Ask yourself, what did I learn? What can I do differently? What resources or people can help me move forward?
This makes me think about having a strong support system. People you can turn to for advice, encouragement, or even just a fresh perspective when you're feeling stuck.
That is so important. Having people around you who believe in you and your vision, that can make a world of difference when things get tough. They can listen, offer support, or even just make you laugh when you need it.
It's like having your own personal cheer squad, reminding you that you're not alone on this journey.
And remember, setbacks, they usually don't last forever. They don't define you or your ability to reach your goals. The key is to keep learning, keep growing, keep moving forward, one step at a time.
This is so inspiring. It really shows how important resilience is and being adaptable
Hmm.
and being willing to embrace the ups and downs that come with chasing your dreams.
Absolutely. And, the journey itself, that's often as valuable as reaching the destination. It's through those challenges, the setbacks, even the triumphs, that we truly figure out our strength, our creativity, and our ability to grow.
This conversation has been amazing. I'm honestly feeling super energized and ready to tackle some of those goals I've been putting off.
Yeah.
Before we move on to our final segment, is there anything else you want to add about this idea of execution and how we can build that drive to make our dreams happen?
What's really interesting? This whole execution thing, it's not just about the big goals, the really ambitious stuff. It applies to everyday things, too.
Oh, you mean like those everyday tasks we all have?
Exactly. We think of execution as launching companies or writing books, but it works for those little things, too, the things we do every day.
So like making my bed in the morning.
Yeah. This is a perfect example. Or answering emails right away, or planning your day. Those little actions, when you do them consistently, they actually create a sense of order. You feel more in control, like you're actually accomplishing something.
It's like each little win kind of sets you up for the next one.
Exactly, a ripple effect. And here's another thing. We tend to overthink things. We think we need to make these huge changes to see any real progress.
I'm totally guilty of that. I get all excited to overhaul my entire life, but then I get overwhelmed and quit before I even start.
What if, instead of that huge leap, you just focused on one small step consistently? What if you pick one tiny habit you want to build and commit to it for a month?
I like that. It feels so much more doable,
Mm-hmm.
less scary. And like you said, those little wins, they build on each other and can lead to bigger changes over time.
Exactly. It's about shifting from perfection to progress. Instead of trying to do everything perfectly, just focus on doing something consistently.
So don't wait for inspiration or the perfect moment. Just start, even if it's not perfect.
Exactly. Don't get stuck overthinking things. Start where you are, use what you have, and trust that you'll figure it out as you go.
That reminds me of a quote I heard. Done is better than perfect. It's a good reminder that we don't need all the answers or a perfect plan to get started. We can learn and adjust as we go.
I love that. That's a great mantra. It's about embracing the whole journey, knowing there will be bumps in the road, and trusting that you're strong enough, resourceful enough to handle them.
Thinking about all this, it's making me realize execution is not just about checking things off a list. It's about building character, about how we approach life.
I couldn't agree more. It's about developing things like discipline, resilience, and being the kind of person who takes action. These are qualities that help us in all areas of life, not just with specific goals.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the power of execution, what's the one thing you really want our listeners to take away from all of this?
It's simple. The world rewards action. Ideas are great, dreaming big is great, setting goals is great. But it's the doing, the consistent action, day after day, that turns those visions into something real.
It's about being obsessed with execution. It's understanding that it's how we bridge the gap between our dreams and actually making them happen. And remembering that even the smallest steps, when you do them consistently, can lead to extraordinary things.
I love that. Now go out there and make it happen, one step at a time.
This has been such an amazing conversation. It really reminds us that we all have the power to create the life we want, not through some magic formula, but through consistently working towards our goals. Maybe this deep dive has sparked an idea for you, or maybe it's helped you reconnect with a dream you've put on hold. Whatever it is, we encourage you to take that first step, enjoy the journey, and see what happens when you put the power of execution to work in your own life. Thanks for joining us.